Hello, my name's Fiona Charles, and I'm going to talk today about using a mind map for developing and communicating a test strategy. Now that's a slightly tall order in a 25-minute presentation. So instead of starting at the beginning with the development of the test strategy, and I'm actually going to start at the back end with the presentation of the test strategy. So I'd like you please to imagine, if you will, that you're the stakeholders for the Alfresco Plus project, and that I'm the test manager come to present the test strategy to you. Hello, and welcome to this presentation of the test strategy for the Alfresco Plus project. As you can see, my team and I have used a mind map to develop our test strategy. And we're going to walk you through that mind map, and so you can see the connections that we've made between the values that you've communicated to us and the strategies that we've identified to test according to those values. I'm going to start right at the very top here with the number one value, and that is that this new generation picnic basket is the company's number one strategic product. And going along with that is the fact that it has a fixed launch date. And there's going to be a very intensive marketing campaign. So it's absolutely essential that we not miss that launch date. There's some other values you've told us about. I'm just going to walk through those. First of all, here's a very important one. And that is that there are brand new EU safety regulations governing picnic baskets. Those are going to be very important values for this test. Now there's also the fact that we're marketing to quite a widespread set of target markets. You've told us that this product, this picnic basket, must work seamlessly with the entire existing Alfresco product line. You've also told us that the picnic basket must be able to hold a fully representative range of comestibles. And you've said that this picnic basket is going to be advertised as being versatile in varying picnic conditions, up to 1 kilometer from a parking lot. Finally, there's some constraints and some scope items that I'm also going to want to talk to you about. But for the moment, let's go back to the values at the beginning. Now, we've talked about the fixed launch date. That's obviously very important. But of course, along with that is the fact that testing and development is going to be constrained to fit that date. That causes risks for us, as I'm sure you can imagine. Pretty obvious one is that we simply may not be able to get everything done in the time frame that we have. So, we've developed some strategies for dealing with that. And these are really the overall strategies for our test. First of all, it's going to be extremely important that we find a way to put boundaries on the coverage and to determine the testing priorities. We've done risk-based testing for most of our tests to this company, and we're going to continue to do that for this product. So our coverage and our priorities will be based on risk. We're going to have 4 phases of testing. First of all, because this product is being developed in an iterative way, although it's not actually an agile project, we can put testers on all of the development teams, and we've done that. So throughout development, we're going to be testing. Secondly, once the fully built picnic basket is available to us, we're going to do a full system test on it. We're going to begin that with this quick stability test to cover off risk and make sure that it's ready for more intensive testing. And then, when we've completed that full system test, we're going to do the integration test with the Alfresco product line. Now, I'll talk a little bit more about integration testing as we go along, because we're not really going to wait to the end to do that. And then right at the end, we're going to do the final compliance test. Now again, I say the final compliance test because we're going to be doing compliance testing earlier. This is another very important piece of our strategy. We're going to do parts of that essential compliance and integration testing as early as we can throughout all of the phases of testing. So we're going to improve the probability that the final tests are really only going to find minor problems, if any. One more of our overall strategies is that once we get to full system test, we're going to run as many activities as possible in parallel, save time. All right, let me move on to the next one of the values. And that's these new EU safety regulations for picnic baskets. Now, clearly, those are a risk to the company. If we're not compliant, we could have to withdraw the product, which would cause, of course, enormous financial loss because of all the money that's been put into this project, in the development of the project and in the product, but also in the marketing. But secondly, of course, if the product is not withdrawn and then something happens and someone is hurt, we could face lawsuits. And thirdly, if either of these two risks is materialized, we'll suffer some really serious reputational loss. Now, if you look at the safety regulations, they come in three flavors. First is fire safety. Secondly is food spoilage, and the third is from physical injury from handling picnic baskets. Now again, we have some strategies for managing those risks. It's pretty clear, I think, from all of this that compliance testing really has to be our #1 testing priority. So, the test team has been working with internal audit to design a set of compliance tests. Internal audit has been very helpful to us in this regard, and they have a full understanding of the EU safety regulations. They've also advised us on what kind of evidence we're going to need to collect to demonstrate that we really have done that testing and that we are compliant. Now, given that that is a very important focus for our testing and our #1 priority, we feel that that's all the safety testing that we have to do. So we're not going to do other safety testing than the compliance testing. To do the compliance testing, we're going to ensure that we include early compliance testing, as I said above, in the testing for each development iteration. So as soon as something is available that it's possible to do a piece of compliance testing on, we will do that. Understanding that that can't be the test of record. The test of record has to be done on the completed product. So we're going to do that on the final build, and I have that in quotes, but we hope it will be the final build, that'll be available about 2 weeks before the launch. If we do happen to find some problems there, that gives us a little bit of time to address them, but it's very unlikely that we will, because we will have had plenty of opportunity earlier on to find those problems. Let me move down to the next value. And that's the target markets. Now, you've told us that there are essentially 4 sets of markets for this product. The first, and really the most important of our markets, is families with children. This is where our company traditionally makes its money. And that's going to continue to be the case with this product. We've also said that we're trying to appeal to young couples. And then there's a third sort of quite solid market in caterers for glamorous outdoor events. Also institutions and the kinds of outdoor events they put on for their inmates and their clients. Now, families with children, we have a number of values. As you can see, safety is really #1. The 3 safety factors that I talked about with EU regulations are all very important for families with children. Portability is another one. Parents don't want to have to be struggling with their children, and also a picnic basket that's difficult to carry. So portability is going to be a very important value for this test. Capacity also, of course. If you have children to feed and a picnic to put on with children, you want to ensure that you can carry everything in that picnic basket that you need to. And then finally, durability is a very important value because families don't want to constantly have to be replacing their picnic baskets. Thrift is very important to them. So, from a strategy point of view, we feel that these are really the most important values for our testing. The full system test of the picnic basket is going to focus primarily on these tests for these values: portability, capacity, durability. And I'm sure at least I hope you'll agree with us, that those are really going to be the principal quality measures of the product, as well as safety, which is going to be covered by the compliance testing. Now, the other thing, of course, about this is that this testing is necessarily going to include some partial integration testing. And that's because we simply can't test for either for any one of portability, capacity, and durability unless we include some of the other alfresco products, some of which have to be carried inside the picnic basket. So that'll be very helpful. Now, I'll just go down to the other markets before I comment on this last point. Young couples, well, they care about attractiveness as well, and they care about capacity. Our feeling is that although attractiveness is definitely an important product value, it's been done already as far as testing is concerned. And it's been done with the market, which is by far the most important place to do that. So we're considering attractiveness testing to be out of scope for pre-release testing. In fact, that's a very bad time to do it because it's much too late there to address any attractiveness problems that come up. Now, I said you also told us that these kinds of events are important. And really, durability and attractiveness are important there. And we've already talked about those. But quiet operation is one other. So I've linked that up here to the full system test that we're doing. We will include a somewhat lower priority set of tests, but nevertheless a set of tests for quiet operation, which clearly are important. Clearly, quiet operation is important if you're talking about something like a opera or a concert where someone's holding a picnic. Okay, finally, you said we have a market in institutions. Now, we identified 3 sets of potential institutions and their clients: seniors, daycare centers for children, and long-term care hospitals. In terms of the values that are important to them, well, safety and durability. And that's really true of all of them. And those are all, of course, values that are going to be very important in our tests, and we've already talked about that. So, let me just go on to the next set of values, which I believe is about integration. Yes, it is. Now, you've told us that the picnic basket has to work seamlessly with the entire existing alfresco product line. This is when I get into talking perhaps about some of the constraints. First of all, these are the products that you've told us we need to work with: barbecues and camp stoves, a picnic blanket, and 3 different kinds of dinner services, which are different weights and different sizes, so it's important to test with all 3 of them. Secondly, not secondly, but additionally, 2 sets of cutlery and cold packs, and then an insulated flask for hot drinks. Now, first of all, let's just deal with the flask for a moment. That's been tested elsewhere. So we're not going to be testing the insulating properties of the flask. We're going to use it. It's important for testing capacity and portability and so on, so we'll keep it filled with unheated water during testing. That's one of our minor strategies. Let me just bring up this one. Okay. I talked earlier about doing partial integration. So we're going to be testing the picnic basket with specific other products, as we've talked about here, as we need to for what would otherwise be standalone picnic basket testing. Once we've done all of that, once we've completed the full system testing, then we will look at full integration testing. Okay. Some issues around barbecues and camp stoves, but not more than we can handle. They need renewable supplies of fuel. Now, minor risk there, but in terms of functional testing, we really only need to have the stoves and barbecues tested with the picnic baskets when we're doing the compliance testing for the fire safety regulations. So we'll make sure we have enough fuel for those. Otherwise, our strategy is going to be that we will only light the stoves and barbecues when we absolutely have to for compliance testing. For the other integration issues, there really isn't anything that will hit us, except that we have to be careful to ensure that we freeze the cold packs before we use them. Again, I think that's a pretty low risk. So we really only have to do that full functional integration with picnic baskets during the compliance testing, and that's for spoilage regulations. So otherwise, we can just keep it at room temperature. Okay. Everybody with me so far? Great, thank you. I'm just going to move up here now to the other items. You've told us that the picnic baskets have to be able to hold a fully representative range of comestibles. Well, for picnics, that comes in two flavors: perishable and non-perishable, which is mainly bottled drinks. So for perishables, we do have some risks here. First of all, let me just bring this so where everyone can see it. Perishables are going to have to be kept refrigerated when we're not using them, and they will need to be replaced during testing. They're not going to keep forever. And we have a constraint here, which is that the budget really only allows us to have 3 full sets of perishables during our testing, although they will make another set available to us for final compliance testing. Here's how we're going to deal with that from a strategy point of view. First of all, we're going to do the spoilage testing first, so that we make sure that the perishables we have are in good shape when we do them. We're only going to use those perishables for spoilage testing, but for any other testing, we can simulate. We've asked for, and we've been told that we will have supplied to us objects of identical weight, dimensions, and surface resistant. Clearly there's some risk in this, but it's a very minor risk, and we feel that it's far lower than the risk to the schedule that we might otherwise have. Okay, I'm just going to move down now to a couple of other points. You've said that the picnic basket has to be versatile and work in varying picnic conditions. In our interviews with you, you told us that we have 3 kinds of sites that we need to look at: beaches, grassy sites like pastures and parks and so on, and forest. Now, grassy sites have a couple of variations there, with and without picnic tables. Forests, we suppose there's also a possibility that we could have a need to test with picnic tables, but our feeling is that these are relatively rare in forests, and in material respects, forest picnic tables are really not going to be different from grassy sites picnic tables. So we're not going to do any specific tests for those. We have a concern here, and that is that we have been told that we can only have 1 physical picnic site for our testing. So I have to say this is a significant risk to the test schedule, because as I said above, when I talked about our principal strategies, we really need to do parallel testing. And if we're going to do 3 different site configurations, we feel we can do a lot of that testing in parallel if we have enough sites. If we only have 1 site, we're going to lose a lot of time because of setups and teardowns of sites and so on. If it's a risk to the test schedule, I have to say this could also be a risk to the launch date. So we have come up with a strategy, and we have talked to the technical people about this, and they feel they can do this for us, which is that we're going to use virtual picnic sites. We know this hasn't been done in this company before, but it is being done in other companies, and we feel that this is something that can give us real value and really help us in our testing. So we're going to use virtual picnic sites, and these in fact can be configured in half an hour, which is great. So once we have assurance from that stability test that we're going to do initially, we're going to run tests in 1 virtual instance of each of those picnic site configurations, and we will run them in parallel. Now, of course, there's a very minor risk there, but we feel that the risk that the virtual sites will not exactly replicate the physical sites is much lower risk to the project than the schedule risk that we might otherwise have if we work with only 1 physical site. But that now brings me to a very serious constraint, and one where I'm going to ask for your support. And that is that we've been told that only 1 picnic basket is going to be available for testing each build. We can't do parallel testing in those circumstances. Again, that's a significant risk, and it's a risk to the launch date. So we would like your support to help us. First of all, I hope you're going to agree with me that our strategy to use virtual sites is the right way to go. And if we are able to do that, then we're going to need 3 picnic baskets per build. I understand that that's going to cause greater expense, but in terms of the way it's going to lower the risk, I feel that's extremely important. Now, there's also the fact that some of our safety tests could prove destructive, and that would remove 1 or more picnic baskets from our parallel tests, and we can't afford that. So, I'm going to move over here, which is our build strategy. And that is that we are asking that for development to provide us with, fine, just 1 picnic basket for that initial stability test. But once we've done that, and we've integrated the resultant fixes, we would like to have 4 picnic baskets per build. 3 for those parallel site-specific tests, plus 1 as contingency for potentially destructive tests. Okay. So, there is one final, just minor items here. We do have some additional out-of-scope items. And that is that we're not going to test for anything to do with wildlife. We understand that that is something of a concern around picnics, but they're not wildlife attraction and the possibility of infestation, ants, bears, whatever, simply not covered by the EU safety regulations. So those are going to be out of scope for this test. And then finally, we're not going to do volume testing for group outings because we're simply not going to have either enough sites or enough picnic baskets to do that. And we hope you'll agree with us that that's a relatively small mix, small risk to the project. So that's it for the test strategy, and now I'd like to open up to questions. Okay, so that in a nutshell is using a mind map to present a test strategy. And I'd be happy to take your questions, and we can talk about how I developed this and some of the decisions that you need to make when you're using a mind map to develop a test strategy.